So I have already made one of my ice creams. I haven't attached it yet, but I've made it. So this is how we make the ice cream. We have these two sort of flaps, if you like, and then we attach them, one at the front and one at the back of our ice cream cone. Cool, huh? And it's relatively simple. The cone is very simple, and this is pretty simple. It's just a matter of a couple of these stitch placements, which I will show you. Now, because the cone is almost the same colour as my table, I'm not going to use that yarn. I'm going to use green. I've used my squishy yarn, this yarn, to make the ice cream. I've got some beautiful sorbet and ice cream colours here. Let me show you. So I've already done this peach one, and then I've got like a vanilla-y banana, strawberry, raspberry and a mint. So these are my four colours of ice cream. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. But I don't have a colour that would be right for the cone. So I'm just going to do the cone in the green so you can see what I'm doing. And because these are different types of yarn, this is DK acrylic, and this is, as I said, the loops and threads. I don't know, what is it, acrylic? It is cotton, nylon and polyester mix, and it is gorgeous. This is not sponsored by Loops and Threads, it just happens to be the yarn that I'm using this week. Not sponsored by them at all, but sent to me by a very special friend, and was a lovely surprise. So because this is a heavier weight, I used a 6mm hook, and for the DK I used a 4.5. But because I followed the pattern, I just made the cone slightly wider than the original pattern. Okay, so if you use the same yarn for both, then you won't have to adjust the pattern at all. But I will show you how to do that when we get to that. So because you might need to adjust your cone to make it big enough or smaller, my cone was a bit too small for this, so I just made it slightly wider. So because of that, I'm going to start with the ice cream scoops first, and then make the cone, because then we can adjust it to the right size. So there we go. Grab, we're doing ice cream first, so I don't want the cone colour. Let's do this gorgeous strawberry raspberry colour. Okay, so I'm going to use a 6mm hook for this, but you use whatever yarn and hook is appropriate for you. Okay, with a slip knot on your hook, chain 2, and then in the second chain from the hook we're going to put 6 double crochet straight into that bottom chain. That bottom chain is kind of acting as our ring. Okay, so when you have 6 double crochets and not a tangle in your yarn, okay, 6 double crochet, chain 3, turn your work around. This chain 3 counts as a double crochet. We're going to do a double crochet in that first stitch, and then 2 double crochet in each stitch across. First one maybe or the last one maybe a little sort of over to the front. Okay. So you should have 12 altogether, including that first chain 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There we go. That's gorgeous on its own, isn't it? Okay, round 3, or row 3, is potentially the trickiest part of the pattern. If you've looked at the pattern, you might have got a bit confused. But once you get your head around it, it's actually really simple. What we're going to do, first of all, if you can see here, we have 3 sets of double crochets here and 3 on the back. So we have 3 loops here that we are working our stitches into. So right now we're going to just make the chain loops to do these stitches into on the next round. So we're going to make 6 loops, okay? And the way we're going to do that is chain 3. Don't turn your work around, keep it on the same side. And then if you look at the bottom of your last double crochet and the double crochet on the row below, this little space here, which actually is kind of the top of that first double crochet, you're going to do a slip stitch into there. So slip stitch into there, and then chain 3. So that is your first loop. Okay, that's your first chain 3 loop. So chain 3, and then we're going to slip stitch in the space between these 2 stitches on the other side. So over here you've got row 1 and row 2, and go into that space in between the 2 and do a slip stitch. So that's your second chain space, and then chain 3, and now we're going to do a slip stitch in the first double crochet, not the chain but the first actual double crochet. Go into that and do a slip stitch. Love this yarn, but it is quite splitty. Okay, so you now have 1, 2, 3 chain spaces. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is chain 3 again, and then we are going to slip stitch. I turn this towards you, okay, before we do the slip stitch. Turn this so that the arch is at the top, and then you've got your 2 chains here. Okay, we're going to go into the first chain space and out of the next chain space and do a slip stitch over where they meet. Okay, I'll show you that again. We've got it this way up so far. Okay, turn it so that you've got the flat bottom and the curved top, and then look at your chain spaces at the bottom. These first 2 on the right, go into the first, out of the next, and do that slip stitch over where they join. Okay, might seem a little tricky, but it just gives you that next chain space. Okay, it's quite hard to sort of maneuver this to show you, but there we go. So you've actually got 2 chain spaces there now. Okay, so chain 3, and you've probably got your work upside down, but that's fine. And what you want to do now is do a slip stitch again where these next 2 loops join. So into the next space, out of the last one, and do a slip stitch over the top. Okay, and then chain 3 and do a slip stitch in the first double crochet of this side over here. So not the chain, but the first double crochet. Do a slip stitch into there. Oops. Did I do that right? Let's take that out and try again. I don't think I did that quite right. Okay, so into that first double crochet, and slip stitch. There we go. I did do it right. So then just pull up that loop, and I'm going to show you here. Okay, so this is what we have. Now if I turn this around upside down and turn it on its side, you can probably see there are 6 loops here. 1, 2, 3 at the back, and 1, 2, 3 at the front. Okay, hopefully that made sense. Rewind the video if you need to follow that through again if it wasn't quite clear enough. Hopefully it was. Okay, and then what we're going to do, put my hook back in here properly. Okay, what we're going to do is make the shaped part, this part here. Okay? Okay, all we're going to do for these is put 5 double crochets into each loop. So, starting with this first one at the front, we're going to work the front ones first. Make sure you've got your work on the right side. Okay, so the right side of the stitches. So, we're not going to chain or anything, we're just going to work straight into that first space and do 5 double crochets. Okay, and then do a slip stitch into that space as well. You just finish that with a slip stitch to bring it down, and that's what gives it shape. And then straight into the next space, make sure it's the front chain, and do 5 double crochets. And then slip stitch at the end of that in the same space. Grab some more yarn. Okay, and then 5 double crochet in that last chain space on the front. So 5 double crochet and a slip stitch, and then I'll meet you to do the back. Okay, when you have done those first 3 sort of shells of your double crochets, you will have finished like so, upside down. Turn your work around, and then we're going to work on the back for the last 3. So just again go straight into that first chain space and do your 5 double crochet and then a slip stitch, and do that into each chain space. And once you've done your last 5 double crochet, meet me back here and I will show you how to finish off. Okay, on your last set of 5, do your slip stitch into the chain space as usual, and then when you join your ice cream to your cone, you have a choice of whether to glue, sorry, out of frame there, you have a choice whether to glue this to the cone or whether you want to sew it. Okay, if you want to sew it, you want to leave a long tail here when you fasten it off. If you're going to glue it, then you don't need to leave a long tail, you just need to leave enough to sew your ends in. Okay, so just leave a tail when you fasten off, and that's it. So just make sure you fasten it off securely and leave that tail. Da, 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 da. There we go. I'm not sure at the moment whether I'm going to sew or glue, so I'm going to leave a long tail just to be on the safe side. You could always just cut another bit to sew with if you liked. So we have the back and we have the front, and there is your gorgeous, gorgeous scoop of ice cream. Love them, love them, love them. They are just so cute. And I guess you could stack them up, couldn't you? And make like a triple scoop, double scoop, triple scoop. Love them, love them. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make the cone. As I said, I'm going to make it in green. Bit random, I know, but just because I don't have the right colour in this to show you, and it will show up more being a bigger, chunkier yarn. So grab the colour for your scoop, sorry, for your cone, and we'll get started. Okay, making the ice cream cone could not be any simpler. It is so simple. We just make this upside down triangle. We start at the point and work up. So if you need it slightly wider, as I did, you can just make it wider. Totally simple to adapt. So we are going to start by chaining 2, and then we're going to make 2 single crochets in the second chain from the hook, 2 single crochets in that bottom chain. Okay, and then we're going to chain 1 and turn, and then we're going to do a single crochet in each of those 2 stitches, and then chain 1 and turn, and do another single crochet in each of those 2 stitches. Now the basic idea of this is we're going to do an increase row, and then we do 2 rows of the same amount of stitches. Okay, an increase row and then 2 rows of the same. So for the next row we're going to increase, so chain 1, turn your work and do 2 single crochets in each stitch, 2 single crochets in each stitch, making 4 altogether. So that was our increase, and now we're going to do 2 rows of the same count, so 4 single crochets across in total. Okay, and then another row of the same stitch count, so chain 1, turn, and 4 single crochets across. Okay, and now it's our increase round, so we are going to chain 1, turn our work around, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next 2, and then 2 single crochets in the last stitch. So it's 2 in the first, 2 in the last, and 1 in each stitch in between. So you now have 6 stitches. Okay, 2 in the first, 2 in the last, and 1 in each in between. So that was our increase round or row. So now we're going to do 2 rows of 6. Chain 1 and turn before you do your single crochets across. So 2 rows of 6 single crochets. Okay, one more. There we go. So now we're back to doing an increase row. So we're going to move from 6 single crochets to 8 single crochets. So chain 1, turn your work, 2 single crochets in the first, 1 single crochet in each of the next few stitches, and then we do 2 single crochets in the last, and that gives us 8 stitches altogether. Okay, so now you're going to chain 1 and turn and do a row of 8, chain 1, turn, and do a second row of 8, and I'll see you back. So pause the video and do 2 rows of 8. And there we go, there are 12 rows altogether, and we finished with a row of 8. So that is the size you need to match. If you're using exactly the same weight of yarn, that is the size you need for your cone to go with your scoop. So you can see here, this is a great size to go with that scoop of ice cream. Okay, great size there. Okay, but because I used a lighter weight yarn than the scoop, you can see here, to make it the same size, I did an extra increase. So from here I chained 1 and turned and did 2 stitches in the first stitch, 1 in each of the next, and 2 in the last. So I ended up with 10. So I did that increase, and then I did 2 more rows of straightforward of 10 stitches, and then I fastened off, and that gave me the right size. So it's actually turned out to be almost identical in size to using the same weight of yarn. So if you want to make it wider or longer, you can indeed do that. Just follow the same pattern for increase and then 2 rows of the same stitch count. And there you go. So that essentially is your ice cream finished. Okay, so what do we do with all these bits and pieces? Okay, what do we do? Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to fasten this off, whether I'm going to use this for something. I could make that into a Christmas tree, couldn't I? There we go, I could use that for the future for a Christmas tree. Because I don't really think I want a green ice cream cone. Okay, so what do we do with these bits and pieces? Well, first of all, you want to decide whether you are going to sew your ice cream scoop onto your cone, or whether you would prefer to just use some glue. As I said, I can't decide which I'm going to do yet, so I need to make some more scoops and cones anyway. So what I did with this one, I just sewed in my ends on the back. I did it on the back part. Even though I did it on the back, you really can't see where I did it, so I did it nice and discreetly, because depending on where you're hanging these, if they're going against a wall or a fence or something, then no one's going to see the back. But if they're hanging sort of freely, then people might see the back. So you might want to do that neatly. Okay, and you might want to leave the long end for sewing if you're going to sew it to your cone. And obviously you might want to sew your ends in on your cone as well. So do all of that, and then decide whether you're going to glue or stitch. And there's no sort of right or wrong way for this really. You just need to take your cone, take your ice cream, and separate the 2 parts. Pop the cone in the centre, and if you're gluing, pop a dab of glue, I would suggest along the back of the cone. Okay, and then pop that on top there, and then squish it together, and then take some glue and pop a thin layer along the top there, and then pop that down, and then just squish it all together with your hands, and then leave it to dry. If you are using glue, make sure it's a fabric glue, and make sure it's suitable for fabric. And depending on what you're going to do with these, you may want to make sure it's washable as well, and that it will survive the wash, and check whether you need to wash in warm or cold water, because the last thing you want is for your beautiful ice cream cones to fall apart. That would be a bit tragic. So just make sure it's washable, because if you're hanging these up, they're going to get dusty eventually. So just make sure it's washable glue, and if you're sewing them together, then just make sure you do it well enough that they can be sort of chucked in the washing machine as well. So entirely up to you how you want to do that. I will leave you to rewind the video, make some more scoops of ice cream, make some more ice cream cones, and fix them together, and deal with all your ends. And then when I've made some more, I will join you back here. For you, that will just be like in the next moment of video. For me, it might be another sort of hour or so. So I will come back to you as soon as possible. See you in a moment. And here we go. I have 4 ice creams here. I have done more scoops of ice cream. I've done 2 of each colour, but just to save some time so I can get on with the video, I've just done 4 cones for now. So I love them. I think they are just so cute, so cute, and they just work so lovely together. And obviously you can change these up. You can put some yarn on here, make it look like sauce. You could put some sprinkles on. You could do some chopped chips on your mint, anything you like. You could even put a cherry on top. Okay, so I actually sewed my scoops of ice cream onto my cones in the end. I just sewed them on front and back, and there we go. So we are going to attach these together and make it into a garland. Of course, you could use these as anything you like, really. You could make them into a brooch, pop a pin on the back. You could just use them for an applique, anything you like, and it's got beautiful texture going on. Beautiful texture. So there we go. Let me stop admiring them for a moment and let's talk about how to connect these together. So it's got this, I'm using the same yarn as the ice cream cones, but just in a different colour. So you can join these however you like, absolutely however you like. I'm going to show you one way, and you can do literally any way you like. I have shown you a few different ways when we've done the other bunting, so feel free, have a look at the playlist in the description box below, or I might have managed to put something up here, a link. Have a look at that and see how they've been joined, and see what you fancy doing, whether you want to sew along, whether you want to crochet, whatever. But as these don't have a flat top, they're going to have some yarn in between. So I am going to make a ring loop for hanging this up. You could just attach it to a ring or something if you prefer, or just make a loop with your yarn. Okay, so what we're going to do is start with a chain 4 and slip stitch into the first chain to make a ring, and then we're going to chain 1 and make 9 single crochets into your ring. Okay, and then slip stitch to your first single crochet. Excuse me. And there, if you don't pull your ring in, you have a little ring loop for hanging over your hook or nail or whatever you're going to hang it by. So a nice little cute ring there. Love it. Look good just hanging it on the hook there. Excuse me. So, okay, let's hope I've cleared my throat now. Had a good cough, had some drink. Hopefully it's cleared. Okay, so what we're going to do is chain 15. Okay, chain 15. Now this is going to take us to our first ice cream. So bring this in here. This will take us to our first ice cream. Now, if you know where you're going to hang this and you need a longer length here, if you're going to be hanging it sort of far away, then you can make this chain as long or as short as you like. Okay, so feel free to make that longer. Just remember how many chains you made so that you can do the exact same at the other end. Okay, so chain 15. and then single crochet into the top of your ice cream. Now you can choose to do that into the middle stitch. You can count and find the middle stitch. You can do between the stitches. Okay, you can go between the stitches, you can go into the stitch, or you could just sort of take it by eye and do the top 2 stitches. Okay, so I am going to do the top 2 stitches. Actually, I'm just going to do a few more chains first. I think I'm going to make 20 chains for mine. Not completely sure where I'm going to hang it, so I'm just going to do an extra 5. Okay, so I've got 20 now. And then I'm going to single crochet into these top 2 stitches. Okay, like so. Imagine if you were doing this in red, it would look a little bit like a cherry. Okay, like I said, you can just go in between and just do 1 stitch if you prefer. That's absolutely fine. And then you want to chain to go between these 2 scoops of ice cream. So this is where I'm going to do a 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15. And you can change this up if you like. You can do more chains if you want them further apart. You can do less chains if you want them closer together. So this is how these are looking. Okay, so there's just a little gap in between. Okay, and then chain 15. So I've just done those 2 stitches in the top there. Chain 15. Okay, and then take the next and do those stitches, single crochets, either 1 or 2. And I think it depends where you're going to hang it as well, whether you want it to be slightly more secure with 2 stitches or if it's fine with just 1. So if you're going to hang it outside somewhere and it might sort of blow a lot in the wind, you might want to make 2 stitches to make it more secure. But if it's just going to hang kind of in a nursery or somewhere, then 1 stitch would be fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so another 15 chains. And then I'm just going to get the last one and single crochet into those top 2 stitches. As I said, I'm not completely sure I'm going to hang this, so I want to make sure it's nice and robust. So I did 20 chains on the first one, so I'm going to do 20 chains on my last one. Okay, and then we're going to make that ring again like we did here. So going to chain 4 and slip stitch in the 5th chain from the hook. Make that ring. Okay, and then you want to chain 1, and then we're going to make 9 single crochets into this ring. Okay, and slip stitch to the first single crochet. And fasten off. And that is as simple as that is. Simple but effective. So let me spread this out. Move the tablet with the pattern. Move all my bits and bobs. And let's spread this out. Oh my word, gorgeous. I have loved all the other buntings and garlands we've done. I have loved it. But this is just something else. The cuteness factor is just overload on the cuteness factor. Now, you might want to block these if they're curling up a bit. You might want to block them. So you can do that. So there we go. Oh my gosh, how cute, cute, cute. Trying to get them all on the camera for you. Oh my gosh. Love that. Love it, love it. We've got our two little rings here as well for hanging up. Gorgeous. So all you have there is just your tails to sew in at the start and finish, and hang it up and enjoy. And that is as simple as it is, guys. So I hope you will give this a try, and I hope that if you're in our Facebook group that you will pop a photo up in the album and show us what you've made. We always love to see what you've done with the patterns and things. We absolutely love to see your photos. So if you're in the Facebook group and you make this, pop a photo into the album. The link for the Facebook group is in the description below. So if you're not in there already, then click the link and come join us at Beyond the Cow. And if you're on Instagram, hashtag Beyond the Cow and show us what you've made. That would be great too. There's not many photos been put up on Instagram so far, so the more the merrier. Come and join us on Instagram and use that hashtag Beyond the Cow. And there we go. So I hope you've been inspired to make some fruity tooty ice creams. And what flavours have you made? I can't wait to see. So you could use some variegated yarn and make some raspberry ripple, chocolate chip. Oh my gosh, the possibilities are endless. So I hope you have enjoyed that, and if you have and you found it useful and helpful, then please click that like button, give us a thumbs up, show some love, and subscribe if you haven't already. Click that bell and you will be notified as soon as there's a new video up. We have new videos on Sundays, well, Sunday night, Monday morning, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and Thursday night, Friday morning, depending where you are in the world. Most weeks we have it on those 3 days, so come join the fun. And until next time, just keep hooking and don't let your tea get cold.